All right, hi everybody, Miss Pop again. I wanted to take you through this PowerPoint of ancient Greek theater. This is our theater history part one, and I am just excited to take you through this because I love ancient Greek theater because I am Greek. So it is learning about my people just for you, and I love teaching you about my people. So here we go. This is theater history part one, ancient Greek theater. A few things that I want you to understand about the earliest forms of theater, okay? Theater was used for communication. There weren't very many modes of language way before we had languages, so they had to basically play charades to communicate their ideas and their stories. People would go hunting and they'd come back to their tribes or their groups and they would have to explain these stories and how the hunt went and how they found whatever it was they were hunting for, and they would tell it through a form of body movements to communicate their story before there was communication. So theater was the earliest form of communication. As I said, there were reenactments, but the reenactments of stories became part of religions, actually, and that is how we came to form the religions we know today. The reenactments of stories of people experiencing different things and seeing different things and meeting different people, those became part of religions. Now, while the Greeks like to think that they were the first people who actually produced theater, as it says down here, ancient Egypt actually had the first regular performances. Okay, so theater isn't just people telling a story, okay? It is a performance. And in order to have a performance, you have to have performers and an audience. That is the only way you have a performance, is to have both of those components, okay? Ancient Greeks began theatrical performances in order to honor the god Dionysus. Now, Dionysus was the god of wine, he was the god of parties, so when they had a performance, it was all to honor him. It was a festival of Dionysus, and it was exciting for everyone. Everyone liked to come out and see these performances, and it was a big deal in ancient Greece. And I think that's great that they weren't just performing for fun, they were performing to honor a god that they worshipped. As I said earlier, it was ancient Egypt that actually did theater regularly first. However, the Greeks gave us most of the modern ideas of theater that we still use today. All right, so they kind of went hand in hand, they kind of worked together, but Greeks like to take credit for it, even though it was Egypt. Some important parts of the stage of ancient Greek theater. So the theater that they used was called an amphitheater. An amphitheater was designed to amplify sound. So you would stand here on the stage, and the audience actually scooped up. So this is on an upward angle, and the sound would just reverberate off of the walls and off of every seat, and everybody could hear a penny drop from right in the middle of this space. Okay, so a couple of words I want you to be aware of. The first word is orchestra, right here. This directly translates in Greek to dancing space or stage. Not to be confused with the orchestra that we have today that plays music, okay? This orchestra in ancient Greece was the theater. The stage, excuse me, it was the stage. I just like theater, so I use the word theater a lot. The orchestra is the stage. The next word is theatron, right here, theatron. So in our basic theater vocabulary, we learned the word house, and that is where the audience sat. The theatron is the house. Okay, so the audience sat all the way through here. Big audiences for these shows. Next word is parados. There are two of them here. Okay, these are the aisleways. This is how actors could come onto the orchestra, could exit the orchestra, could just act here if people could see them, could make their way backstage. These were the aisleways. The next word is proskinion. Okay, these two little things here, down here that says or proskinion, it's because it says paraskinia. Means the same thing. Sounds familiar to something we have today called a proscenium. Okay, these were raised platforms that were right behind the orchestra. These were also playing spaces that actors could perform on, and it would raise them up a little bit so everybody could see them over what was happening on the orchestra. And our last word here is skene. that is the space where the actors would change costume. So they would come off stage, they would run through these little aisleways, they'd get back here into this building, and they would change their costumes, and then they would make their way back onto the stage. Pretty simple, right? Nothing too crazy. This is an amphitheater, once again. It amplified the sound of anything that was happening on the orchestra. We have a few types of theater that we still know about today. Comedy, something we are all very familiar with. It is intended to be humorous and induce laughter. If your comedy does not induce laughter, it's probably not funny, and you should probably just try again. A tragedy. Tragedy directly relates to goat song. That is where the main character, a tragedy has the main character suffers extreme sadness at the fault of a tragic flaw. Okay, some of us are familiar with the Achilles heel. Achilles was a god and his weakness was his heel. If there was a story about Achilles, that would be a tragedy because he suffered extreme sadness at the fault of his tragic flaw, which was his weak heel. Okay, a satire play. That is a play with a tragic theme that is handled comically. Okay, so it takes something that would be covered in a tragedy, but handles it in a humorous way. So it's a way to bring both comedy and tragedy together to really talk about the important things that are going on. These were used a lot to describe what was happening in society, and we still see some of that today. We have memes that talk about that now. We have comics in newspapers. We have artist drawings that are on the internet. There's a lot of satire going around, especially about our political positions and all of that that's going on right now. So you're seeing a lot of satire in your life today. And trilogy. That is a series of 3 plays, or 3 movies, or 3 books. Trilogy is 3. Okay, can you think of any modern trilogies? I've got a few. Lord of the Rings. I think the Hobbit movies are a trilogy. I didn't watch them all, so I'm not sure. All of the Star Wars trilogies in the series, those are all separate trilogies, even though they're of the same world, okay? So as you can see, there are a lot of things that ancient Greece gave us that we still use today. There are many, many more things, but I just wanted to really quickly and briefly get to you the types of theater that were given to us by ancient Greece and their stage setup, and then the general information about why theater was so important in ancient Greece. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to send me anything you want to know and I will find the answer for you. And I can't wait to teach you more about ancient Greece.